Welcome everyone to Couch Potato Diary. Happy Wednesday. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you all so much for hanging out today. Another busy one on the show. A lot of combat sports talk coming up in the next little while as we look back at WWE NXT from yesterday, get ready for AEW tonight, and we get ready for a gigantic boxing card this weekend. This is definitely the best Undercard Fighters to watch episode that we'll ever do with a boxing card. But in the we got a poll going on right now. Which team is in the better spot long term, the Eagles or the Chiefs? That is where we're going to start the show today, looking at the NFL. As always, we are presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for that great Calgary swag. We got the Cannons hat here. We got you've seen the Sea of Dead Sea Train one we got back there. We got Running a Little Low. So get your Stampede Wrestling shirts now while you still can. And again, as always, we are presented by Swift Energy. Check out swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PK Primetime for 25% off. It's like the Twitch one, but the PK's at the front of it there. And of course, always, if you are watching this live, thank you very much. If you are listening in podcast form after, or checking it out on YouTube after, you can get these early over on twitch.tv/primetimepk. So those are all the plugs. Let's dive in to the sports talk, shall we? The Super Bowl, the confetti has been cleared out of the way, I would presume, by now. We are getting ready now for the NFL offseason, and we've teed up the offseason for every team but two, the Super Bowl combatants. What is left for them to do? One team looking to figure out how they can repeat, the other looking to get back to the top of the mountain. Let's look at the offseason ahead for the Chiefs and the Eagles. The Kansas City Chiefs fell quite a few points short of a Super Bowl three-peat. So now the trek is back on towards the top of the mountain once again, where the Eagles now stand. So what is ahead for the NFL offseason? Let's take a look first at the Kansas City Chiefs and what they have to work with getting ready for this offseason. This one is one of the more obvious ones we have done so far. It's the offensive line. This was a big problem in the Super Bowl. And again, like anytime you're talking about, well, this was a gigantic problem for a team that finished 15-2, it does seem a little disingenuous. But there is a lot that needs to be done on this offensive line, given the nature of a few of the wins that Kansas City had this year and the nature of the sound and thorough ass-kicking that they had to endure in that Super Bowl. So the offensive line is going to be massive for them. And yeah, like the talent around Mahomes didn't help, but I think Mahomes having a little bit more time to throw the ball down the field is really going to help set this offense up in a big-time way. They're potentially losing Brown, the guard, and they basically didn't have any tackles. The good thing for them is that this is a tackle-rich draft, so that should help them out quite a bit. And happy Wednesday, sir. Thank you for popping in today. Really appreciate it. A lot of the focus for Kansas City is going to be on the pass catchers. I do think that another guy is needed, but I also do want to remind everyone that Rashee Rice should be coming back. Now, there were some legal problems going into last season that he has not been suspended for yet. Those haven't, I don't believe, been cleared up court-wise or anything like that. Hey, Toxic, how's it going? So we will see what suspension may come from that. But either way, I would presume they are going to have Rashee Rice for a little bit more than the 3 games that they had him this year. So that is the boost that they need. At least part of it. Basically, every other receiver on this team is a free agent. So they are basically going to rebuild this receiver room. I think you need... It's going to be tricky. I do think that another high-level pass catcher either way is something that this team would really, really benefit from. Whether it is a legit number one guy or just a very, very good Robin to the Batman that is Rashee Rice. Just don't let him drive the Batmobile. I do think that on the defense, this defense was very good, obviously. But I do think that this secondary probably needs a little bit more help. McDuffie is one of the best in the league, but they did get torched in that Super Bowl. And so I think with Reed and with Bolton as free agents, I would imagine both of them are coming back. But I think a little bit more help is needed in that secondary just to help bolster things a little bit. Crash, shout out. Thank you for popping in today. Really appreciate it. The one issue with the Kansas City Chiefs as they go into this offseason now is they have about $5 million in salary cap space and no obvious ones to cut. And I know as soon as I say that, someone is going to rush to either the chat here live on Twitch or in the comments on YouTube and say, oh, well, Travis Kelce would save them $17 million. I am willing to bet a lot that Travis Kelce ain't getting cut this year. Now, if my guy retires, maybe there's some relief coming their way, but they are going to have to get creative to figure things out this offseason. Like I said before, though, there is, I think, a bit of a silver lining here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because there's always a silver lining for the Kansas City Chiefs. They cannot not have silver linings, which gets, a little bit frustrating at times. But I think the one big thing that helps them is their needs kind of set up in a way where maybe not necessarily the free agent class, but this offseason can really help them still at a relatively cheap number. The offensive tackle class in this draft is supposed to be very deep. And so even drafting at 31, there's a very real chance that they're going to get someone who could probably play a role on their team going forward. Wide receiver, it's not the strongest year, but it's kind of deep, but you're not going to get like that 1A, 1B guy that we were talking about with them before, but you're going to be able to get a little bit of depth at a position where you're losing like 5 guys in free agency. The reason I say the offseason could stack up pretty well for them is there are 2 past their prime, but still relatively marquee receivers that could become available in Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel. Now, this team doesn't have the resources cap-wise to trade for those guys. I don't believe, anyway. But I don't think anyone's going to trade for them. I think we have seen so many examples that there's going to, okay, well, yeah, this guy's been given permission for a trade. And every team's like, 32, no, we're good, man. Just eat that dead cap, Rams, eat that dead cap, 49ers, and we'll sign you to a free agency contract. So my kind of prediction for all of that is Kupp and Deebo end up as free agents after getting mucho dinero in a buyout and then go into the sweet welcoming arms of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and that offense. So my prediction is they are able to relatively affordably get Cooper Kupp that would be absurd. Or Deebo Samuel as a either number 1 for this team or number 2 behind Rashee Rice. On the Philadelphia side, they could lose some big free agents here, as Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, and Brandon Graham are all potentially leaving on the defensive side. And Mekhi Becton is up for free agency coming off of a breakout season for him. The upside for them, where the Chiefs don't necessarily have this, is there's a wee bit of cap space there. They at least have enough that they can keep these guys if they want and be able to maybe add a little bit of depth. The Bond one is going to be interesting. Philadelphia just does not spend on off-the-ball linebackers. So we will see if the all-pro guy that they just plucked off of the scrap heap is going to be in their financial reality, or if his "you can win with that guy" bonus helps get them over the hump. Or not necessarily over the hump, but I guess at the other end of the hump, and ends up with him signing a big contract somewhere else. So I do think at least one of those guys is going to leave, but I do think that with that salary cap space that they have, that they're going to be able to address some of those needs, or at least keep some of those guys around. And then after that, we've talked about it before, this was last year one of the most complete teams in the National Football League. And so offensive weapons, you're set. On the defensive side, like pass rushers, you got a few. Secondary seems like you got a pretty good one there as well. So I feel like there isn't a whole lot of needs here. I do think that when you are looking at what the Eagles should do, I think there is going to be a little bit more work being done on the offensive line in the offseason here. We saw it last time, right? Like Jason Kelce retires. They're able to just kind of backfill right away. And this offensive line is one of the best O-lines in the National Football League again. This time, Becton, I would be surprised if he left. I feel like because he has already had quite a bit of adversity in his career and has found a spot where he can win and a spot that has figured out how to maximize his abilities, I would be surprised if he left. But Lane Johnson is still 35 years old, and that's a rather demanding position for a guy who is my age to be playing. So I feel like the offensive line, again, which is a strength of this draft, is going to be an area that they look to address by way of that draft, and again, start to backfill some of those positions and build up some of that depth. So all of this was to say, I don't know if a whole lot is changing with the Eagles this year. I would be surprised if Bond was still an Eagle come the start of next season, and I'd be interested to see where they kind of fill that productivity, because he was such a dominant player for them at so little money. So we'll see what they can do with that. But overall, this is more a maintenance offseason for the Eagles than it is a big splash one. Still to come this week on here on Twitch and on YouTube and the various platforms that you can watch me on. We're going to be doing starting the free agency preview. Free agency starts first week of March on this upcoming week, either tomorrow or Friday. We are going to do the best fits for the top free agents. And the next week, we will do the best, we'll pick one player to go to each team and kind of do it that way and get ready for NFL free agency. So still a lot of football talk coming up here, Couch Potato Diary and twitch.tv/primetime PK. But now, our attention focuses to face punching, as one of the all-time great face punchy cards is happening this weekend in the sport of boxing, as Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol fight again for the undisputed light heavyweight championship. But that's not all. One of the most stacked cards in boxing history is presenting us with an unbelievable undercard to go through. So normally, when it's fighters to watch on the undercard, it's a couple of dudes and they might have Wikipedia pages. This one, we're talking about champions. So let's break down the fighters to watch on this weekend's upcoming mega card from Saudi Arabia. It is one of the biggest cards in the history of boxing. At the top of it, there is an undisputed light heavyweight championship rematch that should be an epic conclusion to a gigantic night of fights. We have heavyweight titles on the line, rising upstarts, basically everything you want in a combat sports card we get this weekend. And it starts early, so we're not going to be watching until 3 in the morning. This is the fighters to watch for Beterbiev Bivol, the undercard. We will start with Daniel Dubois facing Joseph Parker for the IBF Heavyweight Championship. Yeah, one of the big 4 heavyweight titles is on the line, and we're talking about it in the undercard section. That's how stacked this fight card is. And now, we have voiced our displeasure before with the IBF that the fact that, like, you have Usyk against Fury for the undisputed heavyweight championship. Usyk doesn't lose, famously, and then fights Fury again, but instead that one is just for, it's unified, not undisputed. Why? Because the IBF pulled their title out of it for no good goddamn reason, but that means Daniel Dubois has the heavyweight championship right now for them. He is not recognized as a heavyweight champion by almost anyone else, but he is that guy. And so he'll be facing Joseph Parker here. Again, this is a main event on almost any other card. And it is big for Dubois because I would imagine a win here gets him a shot at Alexander Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight championship as they go to unify all of these belts one more time. So this is a big fight for Dubois, and a bit of a risk too. You're facing Parker, who is coming off of back-to-back pretty high-profile wins over Zhang, who's also on this card. We're not going to get to him today, but he also on this card, and Deontay Wilder, who's a very big name. Parker has won 5 in a row, but I think the opportunity to be on this grand of a stage is very important here for Dubois. He is coming off of a knockout win over Anthony Joshua. He's actually coming off of 3 knockout wins following a loss to Alexander Usyk. So it's 3 wins in a row, all of them by knockout, all of them since 2023's loss to Usyk, as we mentioned before, with the most recent win coming against Joshua in September of 2024. Again, it is a dangerous fight for Dubois, but it is a gigantic opportunity for him. A win here, and he is getting an undisputed heavyweight championship fight against one of the pound-for-pound kings in the sport of boxing right now. This is a monster fight for Dubois, who felt like he had some momentum, and admittedly felt like he lost a little bit of it against Usyk, but I really feel like a lot of times we talk about on here, how does a fighter recover from the loss? How does a fighter kind of regroup from that? How do they kind of learn from it? Where do they grow from it? He has learned every lesson he should have from that, and would be a dangerous challenger for Alexander Usyk if they were to meet again, if Dubois can pick up the win in the co-main event on this card. Another very interesting fighter that we'll be seeing on Saturday, albeit with an opponent we weren't necessarily expecting. It is Shakur Stevenson. He'll be facing Josh Paddley for the WBO Lightweight Championship. Originally, the fight was supposed to be against Floyd Schofield. He had to pull it out this week because of illness, and I kid you not, his father tweeted, "They poisoned my boy." So anytime you have a poisoning allegations, you're gonna make it on the fights to watch list. That's just, pro tip for the kids out there. But this is, so the Schofield fight will happen eventually. It's a lot of you see on the injury reports. Schofield knee out indefinitely. Schofield poisoned out indefinitely. I'm sure we'll see that fight. Maybe maybe not, depending on how this one goes. But for Stevenson, he has a ton of talent. Like, he is so very dangerous. And it gets frustrating sometimes because he gets in the ring with guys who are at a significant skill deficiency against him. And yet, we have needed the judges' scorecards in 4 of the last 6 fights for Stevenson, who remains undefeated, and the fight is for his WBO Lightweight Championship. So the boy's got some gold to his name as well, but it just feels like there's another level or 2 for him to get to, and you get a little bit frustrated at, I don't want to say wasted potential, because it's not. Again, he is a champion. He has main evented on ESPN, and now he is on, again, one of the bigger boxing cards in the world, but it just doesn't feel like he has fully embraced what it means to be someone as talented as he is. Now, the projection is that he would win this fight, taking a fight on short notice against the number 11 contender. That should go well for you. If he wins this fight, the thought is he'll call out Tank Davis, who has a fight coming up next weekend against Roach, another one that we'll be covering here on Couch Potato and on twitch.tv/primetimepk. But so we are going to, I believe, finally be entering that kind of upper echelon for Shakur Stevenson. It is just a matter of, he has all the skills to take advantage of it. Can he put them all together, and can he take it seriously enough? That's going to be something to watch here. I think this is the time for him to really get going and really just put a stamp on a motherfucker on Saturday. But we're not done. Also, we are going to be looking at here Hamza Shiraz taking on Carlos Adames for Adames's WBC Middleweight Championship. Shiraz has won 15 fights in a row by knockout. He's won 21 fights in a row by winning, but 15, the last 15, have come by him going boom, and the other guy going, oh, and then he gets knocked out. Exact depiction. Don't get me for copyright there, folks. But, I mean, I poked myself in the eye doing that. At 25, this is a gigantic step up in competition for him. But it's the time to take the shot. Like we said, 15 knockouts in a row. At some point, you need to step up in competition, right? Adames, he is a champion. He hasn't fought since June, or he's fought, once since June of 2023, but he does have 4 knockout wins during a 6-fight winning streak. So it is not just like an old vet who is ready to be cast aside for this young upstart. This is a prospect who is building a lot of momentum, going up against an established and still very talented champion, and we will see what comes out of it. But either way, it should be a fun fight on Saturday night. Speaking of fun fights, we got a good one, as Virgil Ortiz takes on Israil Madrimov for the vacant WBC Junior Middleweight Championship. Ortiz is coming off of a Fight of the Year contender against Sergey Bohachuk in their last fight. It feels like Ortiz is on the brink of really rocketing up here a little bit, and this would be a gigantic step for him. Madrimov, he is coming off of the biggest fight of his career, going up against Terrence Crawford in that Riyadh season fight out in Los Angeles. They've trained together before. They both can bring the action, so that should be a lot of fun. Madrimov does get a little bit hesitant at times, so there's a possibility that there's a little bit of standing and waiting that can happen. And Madrimov, I don't feel like he is on this level personally. And so this is more like I've put the full fight as the fighters to watch, but this one is a little bit more around Virgil Ortiz and the opportunity that he has to, again, create a very big name off of a big night. And the last one that we will watch here today is Callum Smith taking on Joshua Buatsi for Buatsi's WBO Interim Light Heavyweight Championship. Again, the fight at the very top is for the undisputed Light Heavyweight Championship. So, a win here could put you in line to face the winner of the main event. I still see Benavidez getting that. He is ranked number 2 behind Bivol and behind the Ring Magazine champion, Beterbiev. And that's the publication that is now owned by Turkey, who is putting this fight card on. And so he would have a pretty good say in that, I would suggest. And I know, oh no, it's different branches. We know. So anyway, I feel like that was a weird tangent that didn't need to happen. But anyway, Benavidez, I feel like he is getting that opportunity. But the winner of this fight, I think, still puts themselves in line for a very big shot. I would suggest that the winner of this, at worst, gets the loser of the main event, whether it be Beterbiev or Bivol. But either way, that is a very big fight. These guys are coming in, again, Ring Magazine, ranking them 3rd and 6th in the division. So this is a fight. I don't think this would main event a pay-per-view, but this would be a DAZN not pay-per-view, a DAZN free stream. I mean, free. It's a service you pay $40 a month for. But this would be a main card, like the main event on a DAZN fight, and we are getting it as one of the first or second fights of the evening, or of the morning out here in the Mountain Time Zone. So it's really, really impressive to see, again, this card. But again, it's an intriguing fight, not just because of where they are, but because of where they are in the rankings, but where they are kind of career-wise. Like Smith, his only 2 losses are to Beterbiev and Canelo Alvarez. Losses to 2 guys currently in the pound-for-pound top 5, not bad at all. He picked up, after the last loss here, goes up against Carlos Galvin and picks up a win in that fight. Now, this is a step up in competition for Buatsi, but he has looked really good recently. He dropped Willie Hutchinson in their fight that does go to a split decision, but he looked pretty slick at some moments in that bout. So a very, again, intriguing fight, and one that really sets up the winner for a lot of potential money and some big potential opportunities on the road. So again, this is an unbelievably stacked card, and there are so many great fights coming out of this one. And it's something we talked about. This is a unique card for boxing, where we're going to come out of this with about 5 or 6 different storylines to try to follow. And a lot of, I think, what we're going to see in the final quarter of 2025 is going to be based on what we see in this fight card here. So a very intriguing night of fights. Deeds in the chat. That was a great reenactment of a knockout, PK. Not Emmy worthy, but definitely Canadian Screen Award. Thank you. Thank you very much. I practiced that all morning. That's why the stream started so late, is because I was working on that one. So it's just nice to see your work get recognized, really. Speaking of reenacting fights, let's move to the world of professional wrestling right now, as the WWE continues to be on a roll, and that trickles down to NXT, who had a very good show over the weekend and followed it up with a pretty good episode of NXT TV yesterday. Let's talk about it, shall we? NXT is now past Vengeance Day, and they have just one more roadblock on the road to stand and deliver. But they delivered a good one here on NXT TV this week. Ricky Saints is now in NXT, the former Ricky Starks. If you were worried that maybe he might have lost his fastball, having sat out for however many 8 months that it was, nope. This dude oozes charisma immediately on the screen, and it is just like, oh, that guy's a thing. You know, it's that the former owner of this company. They would talk about him having like this airport test, where it's like, if you just see a guy walking through an airport, it's like, okay, that guy's a dude. And Ricky Starks, he does not have the physical stature that I think that comment was initially intended for, but when he is on your television, you cannot help but watch. And that was the case here. I thought he was great in this one. And even just a little, like when Ethan Page and Evans, or like when Evans is running through the crowd to attack Ethan Page, as Ethan's about to hit him, just before Ricky goes out, instead of just diving away, Ricky has to get one more line in. It's like, oh, this guy's about to eat, and just dives out of the ring. Just a little, like, you could have not, and the whole scene would have been fine. But you did, and it just added to the entertainment value of that, and just added to a little bit of the frantic nature of that whole thing. So I think it's very entertaining. And look, the dogs are barking for it. I don't know if you guys can pick that up, but they're very excited, the dogs, for this one as well. They set up a couple things right away with Wesley and with Ethan Page. Quick note on Wesley. Let's turn him back, babyface. Hey, we don't we don't need him to be a heel anymore. He can just be a babyface. I've talked before about liking that they tried going the heel route with Braun Breaker and Roxy Perez and how that turned them into more well-rounded characters. There's a time to cut bait too, and I think that is it now with Wes Lee, who is okay as a heel, but is so much better as a babyface. So just a quick note on that. But I on that part of things, I like bringing in Ricky Saints, as a babyface, even though he is a great heel. This crowd was not going to boo him after an extended layoff in AEW, and then him coming in and kind of running the invading the show, or however you wanted to say it, from last week. There's no way you were going to get negative reactions around this guy. So I think this is a really great signing for WWE. It comes at a perfect time for NXT and a perfect time for Ricky Starks. The main event scene on NXT right now on the guy's side is not strong. And so Ricky jumps right into that already. And so very, very excited to see what he can do. The worries about the main event scene on the men's side, not shared by the women's side of things. The women's main event picture right now got another strong showcase this week. Jordynne Grace jumps into the fold, and they win in the 6-woman tag team match at the end with Stephanie Vacour and Julia. The one problem now is going to be building up legitimate challengers for any of these three. I don't see any of them losing for a very long time unless it is to each other. All three of them could go up to the main roster tomorrow and fit right in and honestly be three of the best performers that you have on the main roster. So this is just an elite level top tier of a women's division right now. And I'm very, very excited to see all the matches that we get out of that. And like the secondary tier is great as well. They had a couple showcase matches on there this week as well, but the championship level there is fantastic. Also, Oba Femi against Moose. This is one that people have been talking about for a long time. It is a couple of characters that are obviously different, but also obviously similar, and a couple styles that have some similarities as well. So very, very intrigued by this one. Moose comes out, calls his shot. The match is going to be unbelievable. I would imagine, like with Roadblock coming up at the theater at MSG, I would assume that is this one here, like that's the match we get with this. But honestly, you could do this at Stand and Deliver, and I don't think anyone bats an eye, especially like with Trick having him lose to Eddie Thorpe. That feud doesn't seem to be done, but having him lose, I don't think sets him up in a way where you can now just go with the title shot, even if he wins at Roadblock. So I do wonder if Moose is maybe the answer there as someone going for the title. And also, speaking of the TNA crossovers, the Hardy Boyz get called out. When the TNA agreement became official, this was one of the obvious crossovers that people were talking about. They get called out. They're going to go to NXT next Tuesday. I think it's really exciting. They are legends in WWE, and I think that there's probably going to be some form of Mania weekend involvement, whether it is Stand and Deliver or at WrestleMania proper out there in Las Vegas. But those guys will be involved, make no mistake about it. But overall, again, with a lot of TNA integration this week, it really freshened things up. You have that group that's come in and kind of invading as well. The group, the 4 young performers. I do wonder, like they don't really have a leader right now, and I don't mind that either. It's 4 new guys. This is what developmental and all that is supposed to be for. But there was like Oba calls him out, and then Moose immediately walks out. It's like, is there a tie? Could there be a or is Ricky Starks going to lead it? Or like, do they have a leader, or is it just these 4 guys? So very interested to see where that one goes. But right now, again, the main men's title picture on NXT isn't strong. Everything else, though, is pretty fun right now in NXT. I missed something yesterday. We were doing the Raw recap, and admittedly, I was kind of frantically putting the whole thing together, and I missed something. So we are going to continue our wrestling conversation, looking at one of the key storylines on Monday Night Raw. It is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, part a billion. The Sami Zayn Kevin Owens story is one for the record books. And again, apologies. I missed it talking about everything on Monday, but I think it deserves its own standout segment anyway. These two guys have a long, long history together. And it is very difficult to keep that kind of a thing feeling fresh and unique when both guys have been active performers the whole time. Like, this isn't, if John Cena and Randy Orton wrestle again, it's a bit different because they've wrestled a whole lot for a long time there, and then they didn't for a while, and now if they do again, it'll be neat. These two guys have just been around the whole time, and they're tag team partners, and they're not. And then they are, and then they kind of get along, and now they're on different shows, and now they're not, and now they hate each other. There's a lot that has gone into it, and so it is challenging to make it feel fresh. And yet, I'm not going to say this feels fresh, but I'll be goddamned if it doesn't feel exciting. Every promo for this, I think, has been fantastic. And like I said, it's a tough feud to make it feel fresh, but you know these guys are going to deliver. And now you have the extra layers where before there was a lot of vitriol from both sides and everything like that, but there was also it was kind of capped. You know, like it was a upper mid card, but it was a mid card thing. These two guys are legitimately main eventers now, and you would assume that someone who would win this feud would be in a position to again challenge for a championship at some point. Those stakes in WWE haven't really felt like they've been there before. So I do think that it has a little bit more added importance for these two guys this time. And because of that, you could do this at Mania again. I understand that they just did it at Mania a couple of years ago, where they basically just did that match where it's like you set finishers to unlimited on WWE 2K, and I'm just like, all right, let's just have a time, guys. And they just went out and kicked the crap out of each other, and it was awesome. You could still do something like that again with them. I do like that they're putting it on in Toronto. It's a Canadian versus Canadian. Crowd's going to be electric for that one. And I think it is going to be, I don't want to say a star-making night because both guys are stars already, but it's going to be one of those ones that elevates both performers involved. And so I feel like this is just the setup for something else at WrestleMania for both. I predict that Randy Orton would come out and have some kind of involvement in this match on March 1st out in Toronto and set up their Mania thing there. I'm a little worried about how much Karrion Kross has been interacting with Sami Zayn, and I don't want that to be my Mania feud. And I'm not even as down on Karrion Kross as a lot of people are. I think there's an interesting character there. I just want more for my Sami Zayn in 2025. So we'll see where this goes. But they've added legitimacy to this one with. Sami cuts a phenomenal promo on Monday, and he and Adam Pearce, they play off each other so effectively. And Adam Pearce, I don't think he gets enough credit for how damn good he is at that GM thing. So, again, just a quick aside there, but I feel like with Sami and with Kevin Owens, like the car phone video thing, filming it selfie style, it just adds a level of I just needed to say something, and I can't come there because I am too hurt, but I just need to tell you how much of an asshole you are. And again, you can kind of see the motivations of both characters, flawed as they may be, but Kevin Owens is like, man, you've been my best friend for forever, and then you rush to help Roman Reigns, but you're not going to help me win the championship when I'm neck first in a ladder right now? Like, what the hell, bro? And Sami Zayn is like, hey, man, sure, you could have not package pile driven me, though. And again, for those who have followed these guys for a long time, the package pile driver being the inciting incident is a little bit funny. It's like, you tried to end my career. This is different. It's like, is it? Because now, granted, you had a mask on before, and his name was Kevin Steen, not Kevin Owens, but he did that to you through a ladder once before. So I don't know why this time on canvas was different, but that's only if you are following along from Ring of Honor, or as WWE refers to it, a place where we had a lot of history. But overall, this is going to be an unbelievable match that we get on Saturday. And it is an unbelievable build already for a feud that has stood the test of time. Ultimately, what I am hoping that comes out of this is the start of the Sami Zayn title push. We got it referenced a little bit in the build to Royal Rumble, and it's kind of faded away. But I do think whether it is just a absurd ass kicking at the hands of Kevin Owens, or it's a win that propels him, I think either way, there are ways you can build this story that leads to Sami Zayn getting a championship probably by around this time next year, and Lord knows he deserves that. So a lot of great stuff happening with WWE right now, and I just wanted to touch on that one because I missed it yesterday. One more bit of wrestling talk to go. AEW Dynamite is back after, I would say, they at least hit a home run at Grand Slam. Now they build up to Revolution. There's always a lot to talk about with AEW. It's not always positive, but there's a lot. Let's break it all down and get ready for tonight's show. AEW Dynamite is following things up after Grand Slam in Australia, and we have a bit to get to on this program. There is going to be a street fight. I like with Hobbs because he's doing the meat chant because Big E said that thing that time. I think I forget which blog it was called this. AEW is giving us street meat because it is definitely two meaty men smacking meat with Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Big Cass. It should be fun. I am the opposite of interested in Powerhouse Hobbs kind of being dragged into the Jericho vortex. We talked about it on that big episode of Dynamite where he had a chance at the championship. We didn't think that was going to be where the Death Rider angle was going to end, but we thought, hey, you know what? This is where I think a big feud now needs to build for Powerhouse Hobbs. Didn't, because now he has dropped down into this vortex and now he is having street fights with Big Cass on television. But either way, I think the Big Cass turn away from Jericho is kind of coming. I don't know how much is there with him, but I think there's a lot there with Powerhouse Hobbs. So I am hoping that this continues his build, and at least we're getting some consistent TV time for this guy. We are also getting the newly named Ops with Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, and Hook taking on the Patriarchy, Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, and whoever, Sabian. I'm ready for all this to be done. Like, this feud has been going on for a really, really long time. It hasn't really done a whole lot. It got us a great Samoa Joe comeback, so that's cool. But like Christian with this briefcase has been so lackluster. It's fairly apparent they don't really have much of a plan with that. And like this just whole thing has really been dragging through the mud. And Christian was doing some fine work leading up to it. Not fringe of the championship picture fine, but some fine work leading up to it. So I don't know. Hopefully this one just ends at some point soon. One of the big exciting things, I think, is going to be MJF against Hangman Page. And there has been some frustration, and a little bit from behind this microphone, about MJF and some of the promo styles that we've been getting, where it is just... It's cheap heat stuff, basically, right? It's referencing guys' alcoholisms and dead friends and stuff like that. And it's like, that doesn't make you a good promo. It just means that you're willing to say things into a microphone. Like, that's not... that I feel like that sort of a thing is beneath MJF at this point. And Hangman is not, like, he is a good promo, but he's not necessarily known for the big fall, like the big epic back and forth thing. So I think this will be very interesting. Again, my dog's quite excited about it. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm interested to see some of the follow-up to Grand Slam. What's next for Tony and Mariah? Do we get one more big match at Revolution here? What's next for Okada as well? I kind of vented some frustration yesterday in the Grand Slam recap about how I want more from Okada. This is a guy that needs to be in the main event picture and not just be in a middling title feud. So we need more now from Okada as we lead up to a pay-per-view. And is there any advancement in the Coke Mox story? I hated how they handled that match at Grand Slam, and so I am hoping we get something from it tonight. So that is the tee-up for AEW Dynamite. That's going to do it for the show. Again, thank you all so much for hanging out, whether it is here in the chat, or if you're watching later on YouTube or listening in podcast form. Not exactly certain when the next time is that we will be doing this. The schedule a little all over the place. It's on me. I forgot that I'm on 960 tomorrow. So tomorrow and Friday, if you're in Calgary, or again, you have the internet, you can listen to the stream there. I'll be on Sportsnet 960 The Fan from 1 to 3, chatting about the world of sports. Pretty big hockey game coming up tomorrow. So a lot of my thoughts for that game are going to be there, but hoping to at least get one more stream in this week. I mean, we got it with a big fight card coming up to preview that. And we talked about that NFL preview preview stuff as well. So hoping for at least one stream, but in a perfect world, it'll be two. It might have to just be some straight to YouTube videos this time around. So again, make sure you check all of that out. But hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. A follow on Twitch would be amazing. I appreciate you guys so much. Deed subscribing is an absolute rock star. I appreciate it greatly. One more time, check out Sea of Dead, seaofdead403.ca for some great Calgary swag. Swiftenergy.gg. Use the code PKPrimetime for 25% off. Get those drinks to help that memory, that focus, and that energy. And as always, the shows are early here on twitch.tv/primetimePK. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. And I'll talk to you again at some point. Follow me on social media at PrimetimeKlein, and you'll find out when we're going live next. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.